I do think that Goku be looking like a fan artist's first 3D interpretation of the character. Now, I'm gonna be honest, the people at Fortnite probably work really hard at this shit. I'm not even a Dragon Ball fan, but I am, however, an anime fan, and what I have been noticing is that anime and cartoon related things somewhat get a short end of the stick, I find. If you have games like DBZ Fighters that have for a long time iterated upon the design to try and adapt it in 3 dimensions, and then you get this. And it has to do with different factors. It has to do with the cell shader they put on everything. It has to do with how it looks like absolute ass. And it also has a little bit to do with translation of designs. The whole thing, it works is because the skin is probably good enough just to sell the fantasy. If anything, the good thing about the skin, I'll give it that, is that you're able to like switch between the different forms of Goku. But I have a little bit more expectations when it comes to how they adapt characters, because they've done it before. They've integrated Batman very well into the art style. They've integrated Spider-Man very well into the art style. They've even managed to adapt live action things into their cartoony art style. And I'm gonna be honest, their cartoony art style looks good. But you know what doesn't? A very awkward Toon shader. Yeah, this looks like absolute ass, and I'm gonna stop pretending it doesn't. If you want to do Guilty Gear, you're gonna have to do Guilty Gear, but Guilty Gear takes a lot more work to get perfect, right? Whilst this does look like a simple cell shader just kind of thrown on there and just randomly influenced by whatever lights the map admits. And I think that it might be more interesting for them to go to a more painterly design. That cartoon look-alike thing, right? Because I think that would be very well. They can be more inspired by like what miniatures look like. How much does the skin cost? 10, 30, 20, 30 bucks? Like, come on, Fortnite. You can do better. I have a little higher expectations from you because you've done it in the past. You've even managed to turn like non-IP related skins sometimes into very nice and pleasing designs. And Goku's brow here just be looking awkward, man. Like if you take the original, you put it next to it. Like for one, we're already in a downgrade because we're doing DBZ Super and not the actual Dragon Ball Z designs, which I think look better and have cooler proportions. If you think like, oh, but they can't do that because the design has to be within certain hitbox limitations. They did it for Venom. They almost look like mascots, right? If you look at them too long, you start noticing how it's like the default body proportions with Goku's head kind of just mashed on top. The muscles aren't even that well defined, and that's also because probably the Toon shader takes away a lot of it, right? If it has details, you don't see it. If this is the face of your company, I expect a tiny bit better. Like within the anime community, 3D designs have always been highly scrutinized because of their unfaithfulness to 2D designs and stuff like that. That's its own can of worms, right? However, I do think a little bit of that critical nature could come to games like Fortnite, you know, where, you know, kids are expected to buy this stuff, and if kids are introduced to DBZ for the first time via Fortnite, it is a little sad that their first introduction is this somewhat awkward skin, even though the game mechanic they introduced, the Kamehameha and the little fart cloud thing, they're cool. They're really cool. They're very neat. I'm gonna agree. They're not bad. They're very well done. They have the sound effect on them. They feel powerful to use, but they feel like balanced because they have a high cooldown and you have to charge them up for 300 years and stuff like that. Like it's all neat. It's all neat. Like, but look at this. Could you really say that compared to Toriyama's design, this is favorable? Which is very funny because within the same skin line, they have like Beerus, and Beerus looks good. He has very good proportions. His sculpt is good. He doesn't have like an awkward face design or whatever, or his body doesn't feel awkward. It's probably because he's like a non-humanoid character, so they had to from scratch make his entire model, I assume. He even in the 3D cell shader, because sometimes they can look fine, but even then I think the pivot more towards what Fortnite's actual art style looks like, more of an adaptation of these designs, would probably be more favorable instead of using the awkward, we want to be like Guilty Gear, but we don't want to put in the effort to get the normals to look like Guilty Gear kind of thing, which, you know, is perfectly fair because it's probably very hard to do and it takes up way more resources than they're willing to put in. But then just do it how you're doing every other skin. It doesn't take away a little bit from the fantasy when you see all these characters next to each other, but then have like these awkward cell shaders kind of like clashing with the art design, in my opinion. If anything, I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you really think that this design? Yeah, I'm gonna emphasize the awkwardness of it. Is this what you applaud, or would you want to even see them adapt the original Dragon Ball Z designs? Because honestly, like a very more buff, big, broad Dragon Ball Z adaptation, like skin lines, similar to like how they adapted Venom again. Like the proportions are there, they've done it before. I would love to see that. Just, you know, a little more high effort than this. Again, the Dragon Ball IP might be the most recognizable anime IP outside of like One Piece. And this is the adaptation you're giving it. They did Goku a bit dirty with it, I think. But oh well. Outside of that, subscribe for more content, and, you know, check out Twitch. I go live there from time to time, and but if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you'll also get a notification for when I go live here. Something like that. Have a wonderful day.